Did the lack of accessibility stop you from living a good life?
Absolutely not. Sure, there's things that you may have not been able to do, or you had to figure it all out. But I mean, hey, there's something wrong with your legs, not with your mind. You can get up there and do anything you want to as long as you put your mind to it. I mean, I love outdoors. I love being outdoors. I love doing things. I love biking. I love skiing. I love scuba diving. I love kayaking, fishing, you name it.
To be able to scuba dive, I'm sure when you told people you're going scuba diving, they were like, ha, yeah, right.
I mean, I've got hundreds of friends that able-bodied, and they won't even go scuba diving. They won't even go in the ocean.
Yeah.
I live and breathe life doesn't stop for a disability. And this is where programs like S.O.A.R are so beneficial, because they're out there to try to help people with disabilities get the tools that they need to live their life to the fullest on the way that they want to.
I've never asked to walk in my life, never prayed to walk. I just asked him to give me the strength and the wisdom to move forward. I will say I've been blessed, and people on their feet look at me when I say I've been blessed, and they scratch their head wondering, how can you possibly say that?
Let's talk to some of the folks that maybe don't have the same positive mindset that you have. What would you tell them? All right, we are back. Welcome to the Breaking Barriers podcast, powered by S.O.A.R. Once again, I am here with the one and only Brian P. Swift, also known as the Quadfather.
John, thank you for hosting another episode. To those listeners, thank you for listening. It means so much to us, and I'm excited because we have an amazing guest, Bill Bogdan.
Bill Bogdan is on the show today, and he's representing two of my favorite brands here on camera, the Chicago Bears and S.O.A.R, Swift Outdoor Accessible Recreation. The hat looks lovely on you. You look fantastic. Look at that. Just an amazing. It's making your eyes pop. I can't tell if it's the Bears or the hat, but
it's the glow.
It's
the
the glow.
Are in first place,
yeah, you're glowing. You're glowing, baby. They're in first place. All right. Well, hopefully when this airs, we will be celebrating that they are remaining in the playoff race. So today we are here to talk about how folks with disabilities are breaking barriers on a regular basis. Once again, I will continue to remind this on every episode that there are 61 million people in the United States of America. Yes, that is 20% of the United States population that are dealing with a physical disability on a daily basis. And guess what? They are amazing human beings, and we should be learning from their mindset and their perspective. And if you are part of the disabled community, please subscribe to this channel, like, comment, get involved, because at the end of the day, if you help us to expand our reach, you are helping the community. And by the way, that community is helping to inspire people that might be dealing with some sort of a mental ailment of some sort, or some way that they need motivation. So we're thankful that you're here today. Bill, thanks so much for coming out. I'm curious, tell us a little bit about how, in fact, you are in a wheelchair today.
Oh, well, for my story, you got to go way back.
We're going way back.
We're going way, way, way back. I just turned 56. But basically, when I was born, I was diagnosed at 8 months of age with neuroblastoma of the spine. Basically, it's a form of cancer, type of cancer, but neuroblastoma of the spine. And I had a spinal tumor wrapped around my spinal column. They found it when I was 8 months old, but more than likely I was born with it. And as I started to grow outside of the womb, per se, the tumor started to grow and caused a lot of issues. So they found my tumor when I was 8 months old. I was diagnosed with neuroblastoma of the spine back in 1970. I was very fortunate when they found it, but then after the tumor was removed, I went through 4 weeks of radiation therapy, 18 months of chemotherapy, and was left an incomplete paraplegic. And I've been a wheelchair user pretty much my entire life.
So your perspective, very different than my perspective, even more different than Ray's perspective, which is what I love about this podcast, is we share so much in common with so many people, not people with disabilities, but your perspective cannot be replicated, what you had to deal with. I didn't have to deal with being disabled as a young kid. You grew up, especially in that time, when we could be brutal on each other and say things that...
But you still are.
I am a bit. That's what makes me so lovable. But you grew up in a time when we were pretty brutal, in a kind of guy that, as we guys kind of show and share the heart set, mindset, love set to each other sometimes
Sure.
is brutal. What was that like as a young kid, let alone a young adult?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think, from my perspective, this is one of the best times to live as an individual with a disability. I mean, when I was a kid, we had no Americans with Disabilities Act. I mean, things were not accessible. And if it wasn't accessible, it was kind of your fault. You had to figure out a way to get on. I mean, I remember as a kid, my parents had their schematic on how they would get me into a place. If it wasn't accessible, my dad would pick me up and carry me. My mom would carry the wheelchair. There was if there were steps, there's no elevators or no access. Fast forward today, it's getting a lot better.
Did your parents bitch and whine and complain?
Oh, no. My parents never complained.
They figured out how to get it
They
done.
just figured out how to do it. And it was like, accessibility. If things weren't accessible, we just figured out a way to go about doing it. We didn't sit there and complain and bitch and not go. We just made it work.
Did the lack of accessibility stop you from living a good life?
I would say absolutely not. I mean, there's things that you may have not been able to do, or you had to figure it all out. But I mean, my parents were probably my very first advocates because they always tried to tell me, hey, there's something wrong with your legs, not with your mind. You can get up there and do anything you want to as long as you put your mind to it. So my parents were, like I said, both my very, very first advocates from then on. And they just always fought to, make me live or allow me to live the productive life.
And I'm going to ask you a question that John asked Ray earlier. What you deal with and what you've accomplished. You're a father, you've got kids, you work full time. You spend a lot of your time advocating for the disability community, and we could talk about all the things that we've been involved with together and all the things you've done. How do you deal with it mentally? What do you have a routine in the morning? How do you wake up knowing that I've got to hop into the wheelchair, I've got to do this step next, that step next? We have to be more intentional than the average person. What's your routine? How do you stay so upbeat? Because I've known you for a number of years, and when we see each other, you're smiling, I'm smiling, we're joking, we're on the same page. What do you do?
Yeah, I think I met you almost 20 years ago, but when I became a resident of Mokina, the first time I met you was at a Mokina at a community fair, and you guys S.O.A.R had a table there, and I saw you in a wheelchair, and I wheeled over there, and I met you and your wife, and you told me a little bit about S.O.A.R. But to answer your question, being a father, I've got 3 kids. My oldest is 22, my son's 17, and then my daughter's 13. Not so much now, but when they were young, they were dependent totally on dad. If mom was away at work. So, as that, I was just dad. I had responsibilities. You had to get up. You had to take care of them. I didn't have time to pity about, oh, how hard is it to get back in your wheelchair or do this? It was like, hey, the kids need to eat. They need to be changed. They need something. You always got going and doing it.
So much, and I can relate to that because my family is part of that higher purpose.
Yep.
I cannot afford not to get up and show my kids when they were younger that I get up every day, whether I've got a UTI, whether I don't feel good, and I get in the wheelchair and I go to work and I wake up with a smile because that is our job as men.
Exactly right. Well said. Well said. That's your job number one. Number one, being a parent, it's one of the proudest moments of my life every day.
Absolutely.
And it's one of the things that really got me even to advocate more. It was one thing for me living with a disability. If things weren't accessible, I always tried to figure a way around it. But when I became a dad and things weren't accessible, well, I could get around it. But now how do I get my kids when they were in the stroller, or you didn't have this, or when they were babies, and that was one of the big reasons why I became a really good advocate for recreation. I mean, I love outdoors. I love being outdoors. I love doing things. I love biking. I love skiing. I love scuba diving. I love kayaking, fishing, you name it. So I'm always trying to push. Now I want to do stuff with my kids. And when things are not accessible, well, now that prevents me. I'll go sit in the car while you guys go walk on the trail. No. I want to go to the trail with you.
We share those experiences. Last year we went to Florida, and we were on the coast. The ramp to the beach ended 100 yards from the ocean. The sand was like quicksand. And I vowed 45 years ago that this wheelchair will never get in the way of my family having fun and thriving. So I had to force my wife and my oldest son to go have fun. And I went back, and I always bring a book or something, and sat down, and in my heart, felt like such a success knowing I provided this opportunity for my family to go out and enjoy it. As much as I missed it, as much as I felt like I should be there as their protector, as their guidance, as their father, as the husband, it hurts. But we put them forward.
Most definitely, most definitely. I mean, you know, and that's why, again, like where it got me into advocacy, at least for being outdoors. Beach access, I can honestly tell you, wheelchairs and sand, they don't mix really well. You know, I'm lucky with the chair that I have. I have a beach mode that I can get in there, and I could always, you know, make access into beaches and get through it. And then again, I'm always one that I'm never too shy to ask for help. If I can't get around it, I always look for the 5 biggest guys in the beach walking with the hot chicks. And I'm like, hey, I need some help here. Give me, I need to get to the water.
That's how I got in and out of pools for 30 years. How are you going to get in? Well, you could either push me in, honey, in the chair, or I've seen the 4 guys over there stacking their beer cans, and they're more than glad. People are so welcoming when you ask for help. And the biggest thing you could do to make somebody else's day, ask them for help. Because you know how you feel when you help somebody. When I can help somebody and I'm in a wheelchair, I feel like a champion. And why should we rob others from feeling that way by not asking for help? John, I know
you were literally you said that on, I think it was our first or second episode, and I drove home for an hour and I thought about that, and it's stuck with me, and I was hoping you were going to say that again, because when you have the ability to ask somebody to help you, you're giving them the ability to feel some fulfillment that day. And why would you rob somebody of fulfillment? And I had never thought about it that way. It's such an amazing way to think about it. So I appreciate that you brought that up. You know, it's interesting you're talking about outdoors and recreation. If you're listening to this, you've heard him, Bill, rip off all these different things that he likes to do, right? To go to the beach, to go hunting, to go fishing, to go kayaking. And he's wearing a hat that says S.O.A.R on it. Why? Because that's exactly what S.O.A.R does. So if you're thinking, you know what, I'd like to do those things as well, or I have a family member that's disabled and I'd love to be able to go hunting with them, and I never even thought that was possible. Like, how is that even possible? Well, it is possible through S.O.A.R. They make that possible. So if you just heard Bill say all these different things that he loves to do, and you're thinking, like, there's no way that he could do that, he's in a wheelchair, it's impossible. It's not impossible because it's been made possible.
Bill, why don't you tell us, we helped you in a very small way, but still in a way accomplish something that your kids have been wanting to do with you. You, more importantly, been wanting to do with them. Where'd you just go scuba diving?
Well, yeah, it's one of the things that was on my bucket list forever, and S.O.A.R really helped make it possible for me. I've been a scuba diver since 1991. I got involved with scuba diving right out of high school. And one of the things that I always was fascinated and loved scuba diving was it's one of the only places in the world I can go to where I leave my wheelchair behind. You know, I pop in the water and I swim, and the water's buoyant, it holds you up. So I got involved with a group many years ago called Dive Heart, and they teach people with disabilities, disabled veterans, and children with disabilities how to scuba dive. And I got involved with them because I knew that scuba diving has an expense to it, and I knew what it cost me to get certified and get all that. So Dive Heart does a lot of that stuff for free through volunteers and so forth, and they teach individuals. Well, one of the things that's been on my bucket list for a long time, and I mentioned I have 3 kids, but I wanted to get my kids all certified in scuba diving. And I got my oldest daughter first certified. And this year, I got my last two kids certified through Dive Heart. And with S.O.A.R's help, I got an opportunity to go and join Dive Heart to a dive trip in Cozumel, Mexico. And one of the things that that S.O.A.R helped me with, especially when you're scuba diving, is you have to do safety stops. And that's very, very, very important. Not to get into all the specifics of scuba diving, but when you go down deep, you get a lot of nitrogen built up in your system. So what we do is we do a 3-minute safety stop. And we sit about 25, 30 feet of water, 20 feet of water, and we let the nitrogen disperse out of our bodies. Well, one of the problems I always had, since I can't use my feet, was staying at that level.
Yeah.
And I got this watch through S.O.A.R to help me monitor my safety stop, monitor my depth, and time me so I can sit there and dive independently with my kids and actually do the safety stops with them. And it's the first time in my scuba diving career that I've been able to successfully do a safety stop independently. And it's all I have in the right equipment, and it's through S.O.A.R. You know, S.O.A.R, as we know, as individuals with disabilities, we want to do things outdoors. Outdoor equipment, especially for wheelchairs, is very expensive and costly, and a lot of times not covered by any insurance whatsoever, because they believe people with disabilities don't need to get outside.
No.
So
It's the bare minimum.
yes, and this is where, John, where groups like S.O.A.R and Brian, what he's done, he's making it very possible for individuals with disabilities to get out there and enjoy the outdoors. And I've been a friend of Brian's ever since I met him, and really am really passionate about what he does, because he gives people with disabilities the access that they need to get out there and go outdoors. Another big program that we did with S.O.A.R was kayaking and making kayaks, making the kayak launches accessible. And we finally got our first one installed in Will County. It took 9.5 years of working back and forth.
Yes.
It's called
But
resiliency right
finally
there.
got a universal accessible kayak launch in Lake Shamawood, which is down near, Shanahan. Right. And now people with disabilities or anybody, it's universally accessible, can go kayaking or canoeing.
And it's awesome. In our last project, we worked with one of the Will County parks and got them a grit chair that they could keep at that location. And for those that don't know what a grit chair is, it's a wheelchair that basically has 2 levers that make it easier to move so that you could, get really off-road. The grass, the mud, I don't care how hilly it is. So we have convinced them, and there's so much red tape to go through, to keep a grit chair at their location. So if somebody wants to go there and not just ride through the parking lot, or they do have a decent path, they want to get off the road paths and be with their family and explore the beautiful outdoors, they can hop into that chair for nothing, leave their chair there or their crutches or whatever, and just head out. So Bill was very, very involved with that. We were able to get the news to cover it and really try to help spread the need for being outdoors, because something, and maybe it's shame on me that we haven't talked about it enough, getting outdoors is one of the biggest things you could do for yourself mentally.
Definitely.
It is a mindset reset. It is it is nothing but medication for the soul, and it brings back hope and life and accessibility and adventures that you never heard, that you heard Bill talking about. And so it's that mindset, that mental ability that people are lacking, that lead to depression and misery.
Well, if you didn't believe that, then there wouldn't be something called seasonal depression. And seasonal depression happens because it's freaking cold out. You can't go outside and you don't get the vitamin D. So if you believe in seasonal depression, then you better damn well believe in the other side of it, that people need to be outside in the sunshine, getting vitamin D, being active, being one with nature. By the way, we work on frequencies, right? Vibrations, all of matter and energy. It all works on energy. It's all vibrations. That's why they call it, he's got good vibes, right? It's vibes. It's your vibration, what frequency you're running at. People need to be outside because the earth provides those frequencies, those vibrations. And
grounding, earthing.
Yeah.
It's been going on for thousands of years, and science has proved it. They make now bed sheets and other things that help you ground and create better frequencies. So it's not just a theory. It's a scientific, proven theory.
We weren't designed to live in a box, to stare at a box, to hold a box. Like,
Stare at four walls all day
Exactly.
long.
We're not designed for that. Like, we're not designed to work all day when the sun is out and then stay in your house all night in a box. Like, we're supposed to be outside. So the independence, which brings me to another question, but the independence of being able to be outside, to do these activities, to feel included, those things are very important. But I think the real importance of it is the energy part, to be in the sun, to feel that that magnetizing that the earth provides. But I'm curious about independence. Hits different. Like, when you turn 18, you have some independence, right? And so what, disabled or not, when you turn 18, it's kind of like
big deal.
You feel that.
It's a big deal.
It hits. So when you talk about independence for somebody who's disabled, gentleman in a wheelchair here, and you've worked hard to get your independence, if you will, in a world that maybe doesn't operate the way that to make it easy on you. So talk a little bit about what having your independence, like to be able to scuba dive. When I'm sure when you told people you're going scuba diving, they were like, "Ha, yeah, right." And for you to be able to go do that and have that independence, that's got to hit different.
Yeah, I've got hundreds of friends that able-bodied and they won't even go scuba diving. They won't even go in the ocean.
Yeah.
But to each his own. To me, I live and breathe life doesn't stop for a disability. As Ray, our other guest, talked about pity and all that other stuff, and how we don't, I have no time for pity, and all that stuff. You got time for living, and life doesn't stop for a disability. You got to get out there and you got to enjoy. We only got one life to live. And this is where programs like S.O.A.R are so beneficial, because they're out there to try to help people with disabilities get the tools that they need to live their life to the fullest on the way that they want to. Because I scuba dive, maybe somebody else doesn't like to scuba dive. Maybe you golf, maybe you hunt, maybe you fish, maybe you read a book or go bird watching. Whatever you want to do, find those desires that you like and do it. Life doesn't stop.
Exactly. And that goes back to, I know we were cut from a different cloth by our age group.
Sure.
But I believe you probably taught your kids the same thing. So have I. Life doesn't stop for the down times. So staying mentally in the down times doesn't serve anybody, able-bodied or not. And that's a big part of what we tried to do that we don't talk about, is that mindset, heart set, that I work with people. And believe it or not, half the people I work with are able-bodied people, because they struggle with mental paralysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just look
That's a
at
real
it,
thing.
like I say, totally. I want to live my life to the fullest. I always try to teach or show my kids, live and breathe it. Life doesn't stop for a disability, and you could go along with me. And, back when I was young, you were always, I want to say the disability population was more segregated. I didn't go to a regular school at first. I went to special school. I was in special ed. I couldn't go with my brothers and sisters. I had to go to a different classroom. I had to go to a different school bus. I couldn't ride the school bus with them. I had the little yellow short bus that came and picked me up, So now, you fast forward, everything is try to be as inclusive as possible. Absolutely. And with all the technology that's out there today, and you talked about the grit chairs. The great thing about the grit chair at the Will County Forest Preserve, that's over at Two Rivers in Shanahan as well. People with disabilities can use that free of charge. They can go out on a trail, and they don't have to worry about getting their in-the-house, everyday wheelchair full of mud. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, that was the one thing my mom would beat my butt for. She knocked me out of a wheelchair so she could beat my butt if I got mud in my chair and I had to bring it in the house.
And it's almost impossible not to. I wasn't in a wheelchair as a kid, but when I think about all the stuff I did or I would have done with my friends, I would have needed 3 chairs to not bring in. I go out for a ride now on concrete, and you're bringing tire marks from the dust and whatnot. So it is, but
I tell that to my wife a lot. I tell her, I need as many chairs as you have shoes.
Oh, boy.
It doesn't go over very
I'm
well.
sure not.
Wheelchairs are a lot more expensive.
Imelda Marcos of wheelchairs.
You're going to need a bigger house for that.
Yeah.
But I know I do have several. Just because of, I don't get one every 5 years. My last one was probably 8 or 9 years ago. What do you do with it? Well, I keep a spare around because they do break, and trying to get them repaired, they think nothing of, like, we could get out to you in 3 weeks, and then we can get the part back to you, and you expect me to do what for how long? So yes, we do probably, everybody, if they've spent any time, does have a spare, because as you've dealt with and Ray's dealt with, insurance doesn't pay for anything that's not a medical necessity. And they define that so narrowly that we would be stuck with doing nothing else but surviving.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I do advocate for people who use wheelchairs or other devices. You know, if your time is up and you're eligible for another chair, you know, go ahead and take advantage of it and use it. You know, I've built an arsenal of wheelchairs over my lifespan because I've got 50 plus years of being in a wheelchair. But you're right, your wheelchairs break or something breaks down or you want to go and do stuff. When my kids were little, I had a spare wheelchair that we called the water park chair, because my kids loved water park. Well, I can't take my chair that I'm in to a water park and get it wet and then sit in it all day. So I would bring 2 wheelchairs with me, and it would be one wheelchair that we would go in the water. Dad, go get your water park chair. And I'd have all my kids on my lap, and we do the bucket drop together. And I didn't care what happened to the chair because it was a spare. Exactly. But it was another way to get out and do things with your family.
Absolutely. John?
So Bill, I'm curious, you know, let's talk to folks out there that maybe have a similar lifestyle as you and Brian, but maybe aren't as mentally strong. Like what I hear from both of you, and I've met Brian. We do the podcast together, and now I've had a chance to meet Ray and meet you, Bill. And what I hear is just energy and positivity and a lot of heart. And I hear no woes me in any of you whatsoever. It's a beautiful thing because, you know, there's a lot of reasons why you could be woes me, but I don't hear any of that, and that's absolutely fantastic. In fact, I'm probably more woes me than any of you because I'm complaining about forgetting things and so on. So
hairline,
yes, short, all these. Well, different
we all
things.
have disabilities.
I've got a lot
right,
of
John?
disabilities. Let me tell you, but.
That's why I'm wearing the S.O.A.R hat.
I'm just curious. Like, let's talk to some of the folks that maybe don't have the same positive mindset that you have. Like, what would you tell them? How do you go about having just this energy, this positive attitude that you have? Obviously, married, 3 kids, you're doing it, and but there's an energy about you. There's a presence about you.
Sure.
Where does that come from?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like your other guest, Ray, when he was on, and we talked about how either A, you can live your life and be depressed, or B, you can live your life and be positive. You know, they always talk about the guy who likes the glass either half full or looks at a glass half full or half empty. Well, I was the guy who wanted the glass completely empty because in that way I could fill it with whatever I wanted. If I got it half full, somebody already put something in it. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, I've always tried to be positive. Anybody that's acquired their disability, whether through accident or injury or what have you, you know, you have that period of transition where you're transitioning to being able-bodied and now being in a wheelchair. So depression does set in because you can't do the things that quote unquote you used to be able to do. But I get inspired every day by people with disabilities throughout the world. You know, social media, for all its negatives, I think it's a big positive for individuals with disabilities because I mean, Brian, him and I could talk, you know, all day long on the stories and people that we see with more significant disabilities going out there and living life to the fullest. You know, whether you're a quadriplegic, paraplegic, hemiplegia, you know, what have you, or whether you have cancer, you know, you look like I did. You know, I'm a cancer survivor of 56 years. You know, life doesn't stop for a disability. And to answer your question, I always feel that I could spend my time being negative, but what's it going to get me? You know, I need to get out there and enjoy life and do things. And that's where, like I said, groups like S.O.A.R come in because they actually help people with disabilities get the equipment that they need to go out and enjoy and do their things, maybe with themselves or their family or their friends or everybody. But that's where my positive comes from. You know, I could sit here and be as negative and be depressed about being in a wheelchair, and I wake up tomorrow, I'm still in that wheelchair.
Yeah.
Now what? As you say, now what? Get out there, live, enjoy.
Yeah, and it is it's a choice. We make choices every day, and it is a mindset and a heart set that we've chosen to adopt. Uh, not, I would go as far as saying I even don't believe that these guys would have any different heart set mindset if they were not having a disability. I think Bill would be the same guy he is today, and I believe Ray would be the same guy he is today, having to learn from mistakes like we all do, having to make better choices like we all came to do, and then to have a spirit of gratitude, joy, and a zest for life. I don't think they'd be any different.
I'll push back on that.
All right.
I'll push back on it because I think that it's given you a bit of a superpower. And that may sound odd, but I have a lot of admiration as I sit here because I see so much strength. And so that's what I see. That's what I hear. So I feel like because of this, it's actually amplified. You know, like they say when somebody is blind, they hear better, right? Or when somebody, you know what I'm saying? So it's almost like when you lose some of your abilities physically, it might strengthen your mental capacity, like your mental strength. So I almost feel like I'm sitting in a room of people that are like, there were no way, shape, or form would I be allowed to complain about something petty and think that was you guys were going to be like, oh, it'll be okay. Like you have this strength about you, and I think that's fascinating.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the compliment. And to your pushback, you are right to a degree.
Finally,
we have. Yeah.
Hey, you got that on recording, right? Yes. Brian, you admitted he was
what
right.
mark is that? Okay, the 1 hour mark, right?
John, you are correct. And I think Bill and Ray would admit it because we've had to make different choices and we've had to rely on something bigger and larger than ourselves. I've never, and this is the God's honest truth, I've never asked to walk in my life, never prayed to walk. I have asked for strength and wisdom from the God, the Lord and the God I believe in and pray to every day. I just ask him to give me the strength and the wisdom to move forward. And I have been blessed, and anybody who knows me knows I will say I've been blessed, and people on their feet look at me when I say I've been blessed, and they scratch their head wondering, how could you possibly say that? And I know there are people that would kill for my life outside of the wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that, you know, it goes back to the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And you know, I don't want to minimize it to that degree, but that's what I hear. And that's what I see is
you always look at it where, you know, I always say, well, you know, it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger, you know, and it may sound cliche, but yeah, maybe, you know, you are stronger because you have able to overcome adversity and all of that, or you figure out ways to do things. But I think we're all in the same boat together, and we're just trying to live our lives to, you know, just live. I mean, it's more for me. Yeah, everybody, I don't want to say all able-bodied people go out and do all these things. Why can't people with disabilities do these things? And that's where, like I said, more importantly, programs like Brian with S.O.A.R that he's got going is so beneficial to allow people with disabilities to get out there and enjoy their lives. I can't say that enough. I mean, you know, I look at me with all the stuff that I've done, but I've truly love S.O.A.R and what you guys are trying to accomplish. And you guys have helped me as an individual. I remember when COVID struck and all the disability programs that I did closed. You couldn't do anything. No one was doing anything. And I was going nuts because I couldn't get out. And I reached out to Brian. I says, hey, Brian, you still got your program S.O.A.R, right? And he goes, yeah, I'm still doing it. No, we're not. We're fully operational. And I reached out to him and I says, you know, Brian, I said, one of the things that I like to do is kayak, but I can't kayak because I don't own a kayak anymore. And I use the kayaks with the adaptive programs and they all shut down. And I got this kayak that I'm looking at because I can actually fit my wheelchair onto it. I could transfer into the kayak, but I could take my wheelchair with me. So the object is when I port or you went to a spot, if my wheelchair's back on shore, well, now what do I
Yeah,
do?
well,
I got to pedal back.
you just pedal back.
So we would go, so this in S.O.A.R helped me purchase that kayak or get that kayak so I can go out there and kayak and go fishing with my kids and do those things. And we just adapted because we couldn't do those with COVID when it hit, a lot of things. But I was like, I was going crazy. I'm like, Brian, I got to get out. I got to get out and do this thing.
No problem, man. I don't say no. Find a way, make a way. Now what? And Bill found a way, and I was just a conduit on to helping him get out there. Bill could get out there and kayak by himself with his kids, with his family during COVID. What a relief. Everybody remembers COVID. Do you know how you felt? That is a day in the life of a lot of us with disabilities all the time. But we choose to think differently. We choose to wake up with gratitude. We choose to wake up with a different mindset, heart set.
Yeah, and it was like, now what? I got to figure out something to do. And I reached out, and S.O.A.R was there for me and my family, and we were able to do these things. And like I say, that's why this organization is so important, because for people with disabilities, living with a disability is expensive. You don't have the extra income to go out and possibly get some of this extra equipment. And that's why your donations and your full support of S.O.A.R is so beneficial, because it definitely, what it does for people, it's totally impacted my life, and Brian, to go out there and be able to help people every day. I just love what you guys do.
Thank you. And what I really want to get across to people is, we might have helped Ray, we might have helped Bill, but imagine, take a step back and look at what really happens. If we can make Bill's life a little better and Ray's life a little less challenging, and that makes them more happy, more productive, it's affecting a family of 5 or 6 on Ray's side. Maybe it's affecting 15 people, the people that work for him or work with him. Same thing with Bill. Bill works with hundreds of people. If Bill's feeling better about his life and himself, he's going to affect others differently. So this isn't about making Bill's life joyful.
It's a ripple effect.
The ripple effect.
It's
Exactly.
absolutely a ripple effect. We didn't help Bill with the kayak. We helped Bill's family. We helped Bill's friend.
Yeah.
We might have made him go into work happier, feeling better.
Productivity
about
might have increased. I mean, there's so many elements.
Absolutely. Well, I work for the city, so I'm not sure about productivity. But I'm sure we helped him somehow. But sorry, Bill. But let me ask you this: we are really trying to navigate a way into the corporate space, to get more corporations and big businesses to understand how partnering and supporting S.O.A.R helps them. You work for, in the city of Chicago that has more red tape and issues and whatnot. So you understand that corporate mindset, all the pieces of it. What would be in it? Why should companies that not necessarily just maybe are involved with people with disabilities, what do you think how they could benefit by partnering with us and supporting our community, as John mentions, of 61 million people?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that's what I'm always about, is always trying to create partnerships. I mean, I work for the Secretary of State's office, the Illinois Secretary of State's office, and I work on our parking program for persons with disabilities. And they're calling me right now. I think I'm going to have your parking placard revoked. No, but what we try to do is, like I say, is I'm always looking at ways we could partner with organizations to partner and create partnerships with the business community to get people with disabilities out there and more involved. I think one of the biggest hurdles people with disabilities face is unemployment, or underemployment. And we're always working at trying to promote, jobs. You look at the benefits. I talked about COVID, but one of the good benefits of COVID now is it allowed, thousands of people with disabilities to work remotely, because, companies are still doing that today. And now it's very easier to employ people with disabilities, because they can work remotely from their home with the assistance of the computers and all of that. But it gives more options for companies to work at employing people with disabilities.
Thank you, Bill. And John, I know this was a big part of our discussion before we started the podcast months ago, that the need for these mega organizations, mega businesses, even not a mega business, why would being involved with an organization like S.O.A.R, what would be their benefit of that?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge that I see with a lot of organizations as it relates to branding is they do a lot of virtue signaling. And so there's a saying that you could be either discovered or found out. And I think when you virtue signal, eventually you're going to be found out. That you've changed all of your LinkedIn profiles and that you've done a whole bunch of content saying that you've done this and you've done that, and you really just did it essentially for a content piece or for a little bit of PR, but it's not really moving the needle in any way, shape, or form. Whereas if you were to work with an organization like S.O.A.R, you're actually having some real impact. Now, maybe it's not as sexy, if you will, as some of the other things that you could latch onto, or you're saying that you're a part of. But this is a much larger percentage of the population than many of the so-called movements that a lot of these corporations are joining. This could potentially attract so much attention to your brand by involving with 61 million people, having an impact on 61 million people, to be able to say that your brand contributed X percentage of its net profitability back to that community. And then to have that community fall in love with your organization for doing that. And the gratitude that they would have in saying, hey, look, if you're going to buy such and such, you should do it from this brand because this is how they contribute back to this community. I think that there's something really to be said there. And it's shocking to me that more corporations haven't been in contact with you, Brian, and haven't reached out because, first off, the amount of people within the community that could come out and give a speech to your unproductive sales team that lacks motivation to drive them forward. The amount of folks that could come out and give a speech to your HR department about inclusion, and the amount of folks that could come out and talk to your operations department about the impact that the disabled community could have on the operations, just maybe in a different way. Like, there's so many different ways that you could move the needle for your brand by including this community. It just is shocking to me that it hasn't happened more, that more CEOs haven't latched onto this to be able to contribute their time, talent, and treasure, and to contribute, and to be able to say that we're co-branding, that we're collaborating, that we're doing a strategic partnership. It's baffling to me that more corporations haven't done it.
And imagine the impact it has on your employees. I mean,
well, if it's 61 million people, your employees,
big impact.
someone in their family is disabled.
chances are very likely.
I mean, much higher than some of the other things that they're contributing to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And despite what some people think, because I try to spend a lot of my time on grants, you cannot get a big grant because we are not $1 million nonprofit. We are a small 501c3. So we're in that stuck of, oh, you want a job? You want a grant? You need experience. We've got experience. We're going into year 11. We just don't have $1 million sitting there because it all gets dished out to people who need it, and we've never had $1 million.
Look,
I would love to have that.
Brian, you're not getting rich by doing this. Like,
I take no
many charities out there, the board and the trustees and the folks, like, I'm not saying they're getting rich, but they're certainly getting well compensated. Like, that's not why you're doing this. You're trying to change the greater good of a lot of lives, and it can't progress without the generosity of business leaders and executives that likely, if you look at the percentages, probably somebody in their family is or will be affected by some sort of disability. And I just feel like this would, God, I know I own my own company. I'm just getting started. This is my way of contributing by doing this podcast and being part of it. And I'm grateful to be part of it, and I'm so happy to be part of it. But if I owned a $50 million organization and I knew that I wanted to do something that would impact my employees positively, that would allow me some PR, that would be content moments that I could create, and that would show that I'm contributing back to the community and that I'm grateful for where I'm at, I don't know how you wouldn't attach yourself to S.O.A.R. It's just such a great organization to do that.
Yeah, well, Brian, you can attest to this as well because, you know, the disability population, you say 61 million people, but it's one of the only minority groups out there that anybody could join at any time.
Absolutely.
You know, whether it's by accident like yours, whether it's by me with disease or with cancer or many others, you know, or eventually old age, you know, the father time catches up with you. I'll tell you a really great true story, another great story about S.O.A.R. and your fundraisers. You talk about the pillar of strength, and we all love the Chicago Bears. And right now, hey, we're in first place. We finally broke down barriers and beat the Packers.
Yeah, holy cow.
Finally.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this great Bear player, I don't know him personally. I knew of him, but that was Steve McMichaels.
Oh my gosh.
And Steve McMichaels ended up with ALS and, you know, was the pillar of strength, Super Bowl champion, and got ALS and was in a chair. And through the S.O.A.R. fundraiser, I was one of the winners of an auction, and Brian had, and this was before he became disabled, but Brian had an autographed football of Steve McMichaels that I bid on through one of the S.O.A.R. auctions to raise money for S.O.A.R. And I got that football and gave it to my son and for Christmas, and he put it up on his nightstand. And my wife works in the hospital settings, but Steve McMichaels was an inpatient at the hospital she was working at. And she went the next day, and she goes, you never guess, you know, who I took care of was Steve McMichaels. And she went and had my son hold that football with his autograph on it, and she took a picture of it. And she showed it to Mongo McMichaels while he was, you know, while she was taking care of him. And she got a big smile out of his face, and he's seen it. And you look at the positive changes where, I mean, I got that football 10 years ago at an auction, and where, you know, and I just tell that story about how S.O.A.R. impacts people and the impact that you guys have to continue to help people.
Well, thank you. And that is our mission. That is our goal. I would like to impact over 1 million people this year, not just physically, mentally. I mean, I'm concerned about people's heart mindsets. That is such a big issue out there. And I deal with so many people that are struggling mentally with their mindsets, with their heart sets. And I spend as much time on that as helping somebody who has a disability, because I know so many people, not disabled people, that have mental paralysis. And actually, it is the next title of one of my books, Becoming Mentally Unparalyzed, because there are so many people that are mentally paralyzed.
But Brian, isn't this why you're doing this?
Absolutely.
The whole point of S.O.A.R. is that folks need to get outdoors, and they need to be able to live and fulfill some things on their bucket list, and to be able to do some of these different things. But if you really broke down the root of why you're doing these things, it's for the mental side. It's the mindset. It's the state of mind. It's to generate happiness, to generate a smile. Like going fishing as somebody who's disabled, or hunting for the first time as somebody who's disabled, is simply the vehicle to happiness. You're trying to create happiness. And so, that's why I think you're spending a lot more time talking about the mental, because at the end of the day, you're really just trying to improve mental states.
You improve that, and you take a world that thrives on pills, and we can remove all the medication from people. All the pills. We're a pill set. We're
going to need a world reset for that, Brian.
Well, it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we are a world that thrives on labeling and medicating, and we can get rid of 90% of that.
Yeah. I'm curious, Bill, what is next on the bucket list? You've just talked about a whole bunch of things, but you seem like somebody who's ambitious and is going to find the next thing to do. What's next up? What's popped up? Where are we going next?
Well, we're getting into ski season. So now it's ski season. I'm looking forward to going down to Colorado, Crested Butte. And there's a group called the Adaptive Sports Center, which does adaptive skiing for individuals with disabilities. So I'm going to go out there and do some mono skiing. And what I want to also do is get to ski with my kids again this year. Nice. We've got another non-for-profit that I work with up in Wisconsin area. and they do skiing for individuals with disabilities in the winter. And we ski over, it's called AMP, but we ski over in Wilmont, and then they ski at Cascade Mountain, and then Nordic Mountain up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So one of the things now, it's getting a little cold. The snow's all gone. I'm kind of, looking for snow to come back a
Give
little
it time.
bit.
It'll come
be here,
back.
but I'm going to try to do some skiing this ski season. And then in the fall, in the summer, another big sport that I'm into is adaptive mountain biking. I want to further that and continue to do mountain biking, kayaking, you name it. We're going to look at scuba trips in the future. But, again, it was really great with scuba diving in Cozumel this year to get that off my bucket list. One thing that was great about Cozumel when we do our dive trips out there is Cozumel's drift diving. So as an individual with a disability, I told you I can't kick my feet. Well, in Cozumel, the reason they go out there, it's all ocean currents. So you don't need to swim. They drop you in the water, and Mother Nature does her work, or the ocean does its work, and the boat comes and follows your bubbles, and then they pick you up when your tank runs dry and runs empty. Hopefully. No, but yeah. So it's great, but that's another thing that we'll be looking at.
And I know, Bill, we started this collaboration, and you've put a lot of time into it, is working with our own parks and recreation. We have one of the most visited, largest state parks in the country called Starved Rock, and the need for more inclusion and more accessibility there is off the charts.
Yeah, I love what other states are doing. I get an opportunity to do some travel. Colorado, their state parks are probably, definitely one to look at, a bucket list to go into, where they incorporate accessibility. Tennessee now is really coming of age. I wish Illinois would get behind, follow Tennessee's lead. Tennessee, their governor had a goal that he announced this year, 2025, but he wants to make Tennessee state parks the most accessible in the nation. Wow. And they're contributing hundreds of millions of dollars towards their state parks. They're going to be putting in totally universal accessible kayak launches at every one of the Tennessee state parks that are over for the next 5 years. They've also bought all-terrain wheelchairs that people with disabilities can come and use with their families to go on any type of trail. But they're really working at trying to make their parks all-inclusive. Illinois, we're working on it, but we need a good kick in the butt to get moving forward.
We do.
There's a little bit more to accessible parks than parking spaces and accessible bathrooms.
Yes, which they're wonderful at, but I don't need 13 accessible bathrooms to make my trip to Starved Rock enjoyable. Bill, you do so much, and you've got your hands in so many things, and I love the fact you include your family is at the heart of how which is mine too, how we attack life. How can people get a hold of you or find you? You've got so much knowledge, so many resources. What's the best way for somebody to reach out to you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Billy B for Access. So it's Billy B, the number 4, and the word access, because that's one of the things that I live, breathe, and promote every single day is access. So I got to have it as my tagline, but Billy B for Access. Or you could also email me at billybfораccess@gmail.com. Or you can always get in touch with Brian through S.O.A.R and come out and volunteer, come out and join us on one of our podcasts. Tell us about some of your goals and some of the things that you'd like to do, some of the equipment you may need to go out there and get the tools that you need to do those things. S.O.A.R's here to help. Like I said, there's so much equipment out there now, adaptive equipment for people with disabilities. It's mind-boggling, and it's changing every single day. That's one of the things I got into mountain biking for. I never biked as a kid, never had a bike, couldn't bike, and now there's hand cycles, now there's e-bikes, adaptive e-bikes, mountain bikes. All of that stuff that's out there. Unfortunately, it's very expensive. And it's hard to turn around and get those things paid for. But that's where organizations like S.O.A.R come in and help and make the possibilities happen.
Yeah, technology has changed the world, and it really has opened the world for so many people. It's not cheap. It's not free. And we want to just be a little part of helping the 61 million that are disabled. But we need that corporate. We need that personal help. We need that individual help. And trust me, your effect is so amazing. And we show it. I mean, when somebody donates, man, halfway through the year, I send them all, not all the photos, but photos of the people scuba diving, rock climbing, maybe swimming for the first time. Somebody on a hand cycle that, like Bill, didn't get a chance to ride as a kid. Now they've got so many devices, and you get to see the smile, the joy, the inclusion, the happiness. You're not buying equipment. You're buying possibilities. You're buying hope. You're contributing to a heart set and mindset that money cannot.
You know, Brian, when I was a kid, like I said, they had no accessible bikes or anything like that. If you guys remember what big wheels were, the big wheel. But I would take the seat off the big wheel and I would put my chest into the handlebars and I would lean over and I would pedal with my hands and steer with my chest.
Love it.
And that's how I got around to keep up with my
You
kids.
invented your own green machine.
Yeah, I couldn't. Oh no, that's what happened, John. Then they got green machines and they blew me away. I couldn't keep up with them. But I couldn't keep up with them with my wheelchair, so I would do that. And then when I was in high school and grade school, I had a friend, and he used to hold my handlebar on my wheelchair with his bike, and I would bend down and hold my wheels, little wheels, to keep them from fluttering. And he'd pull me all around the neighborhood, and that's how we got to go around. So, you kind of fast forward now. I got my own mountain bike or my own bike, and now I turn around and used to have to stay out of all those puddles, and now when I see a puddle, I run right through it. Because now, But there's, like I said, life is precious, life is short. And life doesn't stop for a disability, and we all need to work together and come together where we can help benefit each other. And that's one of the, like I said, one of the things that I really love about S.O.A.R. is you make a lot of things, possibilities definitely happen.
Here's a great way that you could collaborate with S.O.A.R. and the Breaking Barriers podcast, and your contribution would come in the way of sponsorship. So if you'd like to sponsor episodes or several episodes or a season, whatever that dollar amount that you would sponsor those episodes with would be given back to the S.O.A.R. Charity. But here's what you would get out of that. First off, you're going to be part of amazing conversations. You would get an ad read, and you'd be your logo would be placed on the content that we're putting out. And right now we're averaging about 10,000 views on social media per episode. And that's just starting out, right? We've only done about 5-6 episodes so far. And if you know about podcasts, over time, they continue to snowball. It continues to build a following. And as you get to one level, that next level jumps. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, great, I'd like to contribute, but like, what's in it for me? Well, that's what's in it for you. You would be associating your brand with a brand that is contributing back to society and helping thousands, if not more than thousands of people. And it's having that ripple effect, but you would also be getting your name recognized. You'd be getting an ad read through a third party. And you'd have logo placement, so your brand would be seen on a regular basis. Those content clips would be then distributed back to you, which you could then send to your marketing department. Your marketing department could distribute that out. And then you've got some nice press releases that you could send out, essentially saying, hey, look at the contributions that we're having, and we were featured on a podcast. We were happy to sponsor, et cetera, et cetera. So those are all conversations that we could definitely have if you're looking into a way that you can contribute. Final word, Brian.
Well, Bill, you kind of started it. People with disabilities are the largest, most diverse minority in the country. I mean, we are the biggest, most diverse minority in the country. And you look at all the things that are being supported.
Where's your month?
It's, yeah, and I don't want a month.
We got the month of July.
I'm just saying.
I don't want a month. I hate.
No,
that.
we want 12 months out of the year, 365 days.
I don't want
my
a month.
point.
I want every day.
That's what I'm saying.
Not a month. But to John's point, not only do you get everything that John talked about, but you go on our website and we do a lot of speaking and other activities out there you'd be a part of. And if your corporation company needs a speaker to come in and make a difference, to make
I've
an
got
impact.
3 of them here.
I've got people. I know a guy not just the guy talking to you, but I know other guys that talk from their heart and would be amazing examples for your community that you want to impact. As John said, what maybe that's HR, maybe it's your sales professionals, maybe it's your leadership staff, but we can make an impact. So thank you. Please share. God bless.
Once again, thank you, Bill Bogdan, for being
Well,
on the
thank you.
show. We appreciate it very much. Brian P. Swift, the one and only, the Quadfather. My name is John Morris. Thank you so much for checking us out. This, again, is the Breaking Barriers podcast, and we are very thankful. Please check out the website, www.soarnonprofit.com, and please go out there and break some barriers today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brian.
Oh, thank you, man.